Good morning, doctor. Welcome back.
Good morning, Venkatesh. Nice to be back.
Thank you. So, our topic for today is take responsibility. And the reason is
Yeah.
part of our series on wellness is that very often people need to take responsibility for their situation, for whatever issues they need to solve, and not look to someone else, either to take charge or to pass the blame to. If we can do that, we are able to take positive ownership of our actions and be proactive and get moving. And that is something that we are going to focus on today. Yes, doctor?
Yes. Good,
Awesome.
good.
Thank you. Over to you, doc.
Yeah. Thank you, Venkatesh. Now, the title of today's podcast may appear rather intimidating and also irritating. Somebody will say, "Who are you to ask me to take responsibility?" Okay.
Correct.
People don't like to take responsibility under instructions. It has to come spontaneously or it may not come at all.
Correct.
So responsibility is not a very pleasant thing to carry.
Right.
It may sound a little irritating to most people.
Right.
Somebody will say, I'm taking responsibility, I'm taking responsibility. But lo and behold, when the chips are down, the responsibility is passed on to somebody else. You know,
Correct. Correct.
buck passing, as you say.
Yes.
Taking responsibility is fine on paper, but in reality, very few people dare to take responsibility, even if the results are of their own making or your own making.
Correct.
So they'll take credit, but they'll pass the buck. Yeah.
Correct.
They'll
Or pass
take
the blame.
credit whenever there is any credit to be grabbed, they'll do it. But when the first opportunity, when the situation arises that you have to carry the cross or whatever, they
Correct.
will back out. So
Correct.
this is human nature. This is human nature.
Right.
um, Pass the buck, yeah, take the blame or take the credit rather. Take
Correct.
the credit and
Pass the blame. Yeah.
yeah. So that is human mind. You can't blame humanity for being built that way.
Correct.
Humanity is built that way.
Correct.
By default, most of us are shirkers.
Right.
Don't get angry with me for saying that.
Correct.
If you
Correct.
can shirk, if you can shirk, go ahead and shirk. All the better.
Correct.
Like that. If
Correct.
there is nobody around, you look over your shoulder and there is nobody around, then I say, okay, I just have to do it. Like that.
Correct.
So,
Correct.
yeah. So there is a definition of responsibility. It's a bit longish, long-winded. But what is it exactly?
Right.
Responsibility is a commitment of the head, heart, and hands. That's again, it's too much to ask. You know,
Right.
you have to, you have to be responsible with your head, with your heart, and with your hands. Now, it's very simple to say, but again, you have to, number one, the whole thing starts in the head
Correct.
and then it goes down the neck. It has to touch your heart. If it
Correct.
doesn't touch your heart, nobody takes responsibility. you
Correct.
know, you
Correct.
can see it in the situation of all, wars and whatever.
Correct.
Like Ukraine, for example, would be, you'll say, I didn't do this, I didn't do that, like that.
Correct.
Somebody will say, uh, he did it.
Correct.
But he will say, somebody will do it, but nobody is willing to do it. And they'll say, anybody can do it, but you can't do it. These are all management jokes,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it's a
Correct. Correct.
but it is a fact.
Correct.
So the HR management jokes are, of course, meaningful,
Yeah.
and you have to use your head, heart, and hands.
Correct.
Head and hands. So
Correct.
think, think and approve yourself as to what you are heading into,
Correct.
and then heart. You should like that. Whatever you are
Correct.
doing, you should like. If you don't
Own it.
like, you don't like.
Emotionally own it. Correct.
And hands will put things into action,
Correct.
and there it is. If all three are working in unison,
Correct.
then things will move. Otherwise, things will not move.
Correct.
You know, any number of examples at home, in the street, in the whatever, everywhere. It's there the problem, and you have to take the blame. Yeah. Next slide, please.
Correct. Now, I think the important part of the second part of the sentence was to fix the problem and not
Yeah.
to fix blame on someone else. Correct.
Yeah. Yeah.
Correct.
Right.
Take responsibility. Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So when we talk of responsibility, it should be 100% responsibility.
Correct.
You know, you say, I am half responsible, the rest half you manage, and your half is better than my half or whatever.
Correct.
Doing, doing halfway house is not going to get the job done,
Correct.
because your responsibility has to be absolute and final, and there it has to be. You
Correct.
should be accountable through.
Correct.
So you have to take 100% responsibility, or else it's not responsibility at all. In
That's a
Tamil
very
there
good
is a
point. Yeah, that's a very good point, because otherwise you have an escape route. Once again, I have taken responsibility, but the moment you add a but to responsibility, um, is when things begin to crumble.
right, right. In Tamil there is a saying, it's a sort of an idiom. You
Ah,
know, somebody was asked to jump over the village well, you know, and he just jumped, and then he fell into the well. And when somebody asked him what happened, he said, "I crossed three-fourths of the
well, ah,
well. I crossed three-fourths of the well, and the rest was unfortunate. I did my I did my part of jumping over the well more than halfway through. It doesn't matter, you know.
do you remember the
Arak,
Tamil saying? Do you remember the Tamil idiom?
yeah.
Idiom?
Ara kinare தாண்டினது. Ara
Ah,
is half, kinare
ah,
is well,
ah.
தாண்டது is jump. I jumped over the
Half the well.
half the. I did my job. So I fell. I don't know why. Blah blah blah.
Got it.
Responsibility. Do what is expected of you.
Correct.
Yeah, and choose the right thing to do and be accountable. So these are all various dimensions of the same problem or
Correct.
same issue.
Correct.
You should do what is expected of you. Somebody is expecting you to do something,
Correct.
and you are expected to do something. That is
Correct.
what is responsible,
Correct.
and you have to do the right thing.
Correct.
Yeah, can't say that this was right or this was not wrong, right or whatever. And then you have to be accountable.
Correct.
Like that, jumping over the well, you
Correct.
should be accountable to complete the jumping part.
Correct.
Otherwise, your
Correct.
accountability
Yeah.
goes
That
for a
that is
toss.
back to the half-hearted issue, right? You can't jump half
Yeah,
the well. You can't take half
yeah, yeah.
responsibility. Correct.
Yeah. Half the well is a good example, because if you don't jump over it properly, you are dead.
Correct.
Like
Correct.
so there is always a saying that, pass the buck, pass the buck. Very easy to
Correct.
say, and very difficult to actually mean and put into action.
Yeah.
So somebody
The
said,
buck stops here. Correct. Rather, the
yeah,
opposite.
I think it was
Correct.
an American president who said that,
Correct.
people used to keep on passing the buck,
Correct.
and, but then finally it came to an end. The president said, I'll manage it. The buck stops here,
Correct.
that kind of.
Correct. Correct.
So next slide, please. Now, today, responsibility is a thing that is getting highly complicated.
Correct.
For example, take a confined situation of a family.
Right.
Yeah, it's a 2+2 family. The father and mother are very happy. They are contented, and they
Right.
think that responsibility is all taken care of. But
Right.
lo and behold, the social media come into the picture. Your
Correct.
neighbor will, oh my God, you are doing it this way. Oh my God, you have not done this. Oh my God, this.
Correct.
So social responsibility is, what we call as peer pressure, peer
Right.
group. Peer pressure is nothing but the algebraic sum of all good and bad things that can happen.
Correct.
So social media responsibility is more complicated, because you are helping John and you are not helping Joyce or
Right.
something. You know,
Yeah.
then again, have the felt responsibility.
Correct.
So that is an integral part of today's environment.
Correct.
You
Correct.
can't say social media I should dispense with. You cannot. It has grown
Correct.
so big.
Correct.
Even presidents are elected, and murders are committed, whatever,
In the name
all
of,
because of
yeah.
social media saying. And
Correct.
social media is a tyranny incorporate.
Correct.
So you may hate the social media, but your neighbor will not allow you to do that.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
it's
And
very
I guess
complicated.
what also it means is that a lot of people don't take responsibility for what they think. They blame it on
yeah,
what they heard in social media, or basically they are not taking responsibility for thinking their own thoughts. That I think this
right,
because I was told this or somebody said this. That is another very big problem with social media, right? To your point,
right,
you have to take responsibility for your own thoughts, finally, right? You can't do
yeah,
what everybody else around you is telling you to do.
yeah, yeah. That will come under the title of thick-skinnedness. We have got a session coming on
Correct,
thick-skinned.
correct,
They say, I am thick-skinned, I do what I want, but then your social media friends or online friends won't
right,
let you.
correct.
So,
And you need to figure out, to the previous slide, doing what is expected of you is one thing, but you have to do the right thing. And that
do the right
buck
thing.
cannot be passed. Correct.
Right.
Absolutely.
And that's a very complicated responsibility.
Correct.
Even within confined responsibility of the family and friends and neighbors,
These
you have
impacts come
distant
in.
responsibility. Distant responsibility. Somebody sitting in Boston said this, and somebody sitting in Moscow said this. That's that kind of a responsibility,
Correct.
and you get irritated. You don't want to take that responsibility.
Correct.
But very few people have the gumption to say, okay, I have made up my mind. Like Nixon said, President Nixon said, when it came to bombing Vietnam, you
Right.
know, to bomb the Vietnam barrier, sort of,
Right.
and then you have to use things like defoliants. There will be
Correct.
the entire forest will be completely made completely devoid of leaves, and so that you can see the enemy can see your movement.
Or you can see the
So
enemy. Correct.
yeah, you can see the enemy, and the enemy can see it's two-way. so this is it's a very unhealthy situation, but you can't help it. Now the clock has moved forward and the calendar has moved forward. You cannot
Correct.
set the clock. Now
Correct.
social media cannot be removed at
Correct.
all. If at all, it's going to get more and more complicated, and your responsibility is gauged and measured in terms of inputs from everywhere, from
Correct.
halfway across the globe. You are part of the responsible. Now, Stephen
Yeah.
Covey wrote
Right.
uh, his 7 habits,
Right.
and he didn't have all the social media getting into the act.
Correct.
And he poor fellow died, and then today it's a different game. Today it's Stephen Covey's game, but
No, but
highly
I think
complicated.
without getting too overtaken by the social media point, I think we are making the point. Stephen Covey made the point that taking responsibility is crucial, right? That is the point we were making.
Right, right, very true. So their responsibility, again, going back to Stephen Covey, without meaning to belabor the point,
Right.
but Stephen Covey said,
Yeah.
responsibility, actually responsibility.
Correct.
It's an extension of the social media, other things. Your responsibility. It's a complex interaction. You can act, but then you are not sure how
No,
to
so I
act and
think,
so.
no, like I said, I think let's leave the social media point behind. I think the point
Yeah,
we are making is we have to believe it's we can make a response irrespective of
right.
what the rest of everyone is saying, and therefore I guess response is my responsibility.
Correct. 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 Very true. Yeah, next slide, please.
Yeah.
Now, while doing all this, responsibility will have to be reflected in the ethics of your action.
Correct.
You got your money and power and everything, and if you are asked to commit some very bad things, like
Correct.
not exactly murder, but your responsibility includes things
Staying
which
true.
are not really ethical.
Correct.
Then the conflict.
Correct.
The conflict arises when your responsibility is there, okay, and but the responsibility is again to act in accordance with somebody else is an ethical thing, but then it should be ethically correct.
Correct.
You know,
Correct.
you has to commit a murder, and if your responsibility involves that, then you
Correct.
have to say no.
Correct.
So it's very everything gets complicated in the human situation.
Correct.
So, but
But
you need to learn
another
to.
way of looking at it is that you are responsible for your ethics, right? So
Right,
you have
right,
to take responsibility for staying in accordance with your ethics. You can't pass
right,
that buck and say, oh, I did this because someone said, that's the right thing to do. Coming back to that
right,
simple three-liner, be doing the right thing is your responsibility. Right thing is defined by your ethics.
right. Very true. Okay, now responsibility again will have to cover it's an extension of the individual to the
Correct.
family.
Correct.
Now, familial responsibilities are again formidable,
Correct.
and it may be very simplistic, but familial responsibility is the first one you have to be accounted for,
Correct.
accountable, and that's how your responsibility has to be executed. You
Correct.
know,
Correct.
whatever you are doing, as per your responsibility, consumption, whatever, it has to be okay with your brother, sister, father, whatever.
Correct.
And then only then do you have responsibility fulfilled.
Correct.
It is more complicated than even social responsibility, social
Yeah, in
media,
fact, this is
something.
the first responsibility. Before any of the social, etc., you first start with you have to take care of yourself and you have to take care of your family, and you have to take
Correct.
responsibility for that. That is not something you can say. Either my extended family must take care of my family, or government must take care of my family. First, you have to take care of your family.
Correct. Correct. Very true. Next slide, please.
Yeah,
Now, in this context, in the past 15, 20 years, a new concept has come.
correct,
Part and part of the routine concept, like they call it CSR.
correct,
What is this CSR? It
correct,
is corporate social responsibility.
right,
The word itself is embedded in the concept.
correct,
So corporate social responsibility,
correct,
this concept didn't come in out of the blue. It developed over a period of several decades. And
correct,
now corporate social responsibility is an integral part of corporate management.
correct,
Now, what exactly is that?
correct,
Before this concept of CSR came, companies were expected to make profit,
correct,
and the matter ended.
correct,
You can have, sorry to bring in examples, some tycoons are they are fine, but then when it comes to corporate social responsibility, which again includes, uh, you know, taking care of the family, other accountabilities
community,
of the people concerned, which could be a shareholder, a distant relative, or whatever, an influencer, whatever. The corporate social responsibility is built in,
correct,
and you cannot escape that. The government of India did it that it said you have to give away 2.5% of your profit,
correct,
and then you're eligible for being recognized as a corporate CSR responsibility guy.
correct,
So that is now today the in thing. It is
correct,
not today. It may not be making headlines, but it
correct,
is there.
correct, correct,
CSR, when it arrived, it made headlines. I was
correct,
personally involved in some CSR projects,
correct,
and to ensure that the 2.5% was given.
correct,
Now, where decisions of Waqf and other things are there to take care of this, but then a corporate guy, a registered corporate person, or organization or entity, will
right,
have to make sure that your profit will have to be in line with your corporate social responsibility of 2.5%
correct,
of
correct,
giving away
correct,
and so forth.
correct.
So,
I think
any
the
comment on?
point, yeah, the larger point being that, yeah, after we just spoke about family in the previous slide, we are saying you also have to take care of your community. And if you are operating in your community, either as an individual or a company, and you want it to flourish, it's not, it is not somebody else's responsibility. If you're making profits, you're making it due to the community and you help the community and you help to create better conditions for your ecosystem.
Right, right, very true. So everywhere the question of ethics comes in.
Correct.
If you made profit and if you are giving it away, part of it is, it's not out of altruism.
Correct.
You are doing it because it is a thrust on you, etc. Now, like this ethics, ethical behavior, ethical corporate behavior has to be built in your HR policies, so forth. And what does the ethics mean? It means all these several things put around together, and you require, say, for example, honesty and the right, fairness, responsibility, conscience, etc., etc.
Correct.
Now, again, this involves a little feedback system also. You are doing ABCD, and
Correct.
your feedback tells you to do EFGH,
Correct.
and you should follow that. So there is a feedback behavior individually or in a corporate sense, and whether it comes through persons, individuals, or through electronic media, whatever. But that has to be built in. You are, of course, given the liberty to do it within limits of, if you are not making good profit, nobody will ask you. But if you are making huge profits, then you have to have corporate social responsibility thrust on
Correct.
you if you don't do it yourself.
Correct.
But luckily in India, at least barring a few people, uh,
A
most
lot
people,
of people do take responsibility. Correct. And contribute back to education, health, various
right,
things, water supply, and so on. Correct.
right. So that is where the ethicality of what you're thinking and doing comes in.
Correct.
And rightly so. But still, India is way behind. You know, some of the IT tycoons like Bill Gates and so forth, they did it in a big way.
Correct.
Warren Buffett or somebody. You know.
Correct.
The collective responsibility is a thing which you should be familiar with or you should be aware of.
Correct.
And collective responsibility comes more under corporate responsibility. As an individual, you may be highly responsible, but if
Correct.
your organization is not responsible enough in dimensions commensurate with what you are doing, then the question of collective responsibility comes in.
Correct.
And you have to empower those in power will make sure that it is enacted. Ultimately, I think today, even today, the income tax people or corporate tax people build this 2.5%
No, so
thing in
I
their
think,
mind.
yeah, again, I think we are like you started, right? Finally, responsibility cannot be thrust. You have to take
Right,
responsibility. So I think collective responsibility beyond these regulations on CSR, etc. There are many other forms of responsibility, and
right,
people, whether corporates or individuals, have to take responsibility, right? If you thrust
right,
it,
right,
and that's one of the problems with CSR, right? That CSR did not go forward because people did not do it under duress. Finally,
right,
compliance was low because people didn't feel a sense of responsibility. They have to take
right,
that responsibility. Correct.
right. True, true, very true. No, it's a quick word on authority versus responsibility. Now,
Ah,
if you are given a job to do,
correct.
hmm, you should also be given the freedom to do the way it is expected of you. If you are given authority and your responsibility is there to make sure that it is in line. You
Correct.
know, you have to, but these two go together, by the way.
Correct. Correct.
Authority and responsibility go together, and otherwise, you are only exercising your authority and
Without
not
responsibility.
without
Correct.
responsibility, and vice versa. The reverse is
No, I
also
think the
true.
problem of having authority without responsibility is the more acute one, because
Right.
if you have authority and you don't feel responsible, is when a lot of dysfunctional things happen, right?
Like the latest American president is an example.
Correct.
The
Correct.
Supreme Court had to intervene to make sure that his authority would go with responsibility and not let loose, and
Correct.
so forth.
Correct.
So this it's at home also. If you are given the authority, etc., etc.
Then you have to take responsibility. Correct.
Yeah. Now I brought in a Sanskrit sloka here, which is from Subhashitam.
This is the last
Hmm?
slide, by the way.
Huh?
This is the last slide, I think.
Yeah, this last slide. Now, irrespective of what you're doing, where you're doing, whatever is to be done, etc., etc.,
Right.
there is a dynamic process.
Correct.
Yeah, dynamic process wherein people come in and go out, and, issues come and go,
Correct.
and they're learning all the time. Now, you are learning all the time, even if it's in the regular day-to-day affair kind of a thing, you are learning.
Right.
And what is that? You cannot count that learning, and that learning will keep happening. Whether or not you like it, you're learning. You cannot be stopped, and
Correct.
so forth. Now, it's a very interesting Sanskrit song. This one, what is it?
Shloka.
Acharya that means Acharya. Acharya is teacher.
Correct.
Hmm? Acharya padam adatya. Your teacher, whatever teacher you are talking about.
Correct.
He'll only get you quarter or 1/4 or 25% of what you are supposed to learn.
Correct.
Even if you pick your head and try to learn, you can only gain 25%.
25%. Correct.
So there is a
Correct.
limit. There is a
Correct.
limit. Acharyat padam adate, padam shishya swamedaya. Now, whether you are doing PhD or whether you are doing fifth standard or fourth standard or what,
Correct.
the shishya himself has to learn and implement it. Padam Shishya Swamedaya. Swamedaya means self learning.
Correct.
Acharya Padam Aditya. Teacher will give you 25%. Hmm?
Correct.
And Padam Shishya Swamedaya. 25% himself is learning.
Right.
Hmm? And Padam Adatte, one fourth, you get from your sub brahmacharya. The sub brahmachari means fellow students,
Right.
like
Correct.
peer group teach you 25%.
Correct.
And finally what? Padam kala kramena cha. No matter how you break your head, only
Correct.
25% will come, and that
With time.
25% will say it will take time.
Correct.
And it comes. If you are open minded, it comes.
Correct.
And this is true for any situation, whether it is learning, teaching, whatever.
Or
So,
responsibility. Correct.
yeah. So that is how learning is going to be. So don't get frustrated, don't get impatient. You
Correct.
learn, but then don't stop the learning process,
Correct.
like that.
Correct.
This process will continue on and on and on. So
Correct.
this will apply to responsibilities.
Exactly.
So
Correct. That you can't, whether it is your boss, for example, whether it's your teacher or your boss, he can be
yeah,
responsible for 25%. Your peers can be
yeah,
responsible for 25%. And
yeah,
only time will tell whether your actions are right. But you have to take your 25% and do it, without which it won't happen. Is one way of
right.
looking at, how this fits in the responsibility context.
Yeah. So much is what I thought we can share.
Yes.
And
Thank you so much, doctor. I'll just sum up.
yeah, it's your job anyway.
No. So today we talked about responsibility, and we talked about, it is something that most people would like, uh, by nature, to shirk. Most of us would like someone else to take the responsibility, especially when there are risks of failure and problems. However, the word responsibility comes with very clearly the notion that we are responsible for our own ability to respond. And that is actually very liberating, and it allows us to be positive in our actions only when we know that finally the buck stops with us, right? That for good or for bad, it is in our hands to change our circumstances and take charge of things. Will we start moving? And actually it's very healthy, because then, putting blame in the hands of either destiny or other people, which quite often cripples you, we are able to sort of move past that. We looked at various dimensions of it. That, for example, social media nowadays seems to diffuse the responsibility for things. It seems like, people other than close to you have a say in things. But it is finally up to us to say it's, our responsibility to take care first of our family, then our society, and all the time, to the last slide, knowing that we can't do it fully. The 25%, these 4 25%, whether it is learning or responsibility, it is going to come from different places, but we have to do our part. Yes, doctor?
Absolutely, absolutely. Well summarized and
Thank you,
interesting.
and look
Thank
forward to the
you.
next one.
Yes, same here, same here.
Thank you, doc. Take care. Bye.